It was supposed to be a quiet press event, one of those routine political appearances where the cameras flicker and the headlines write themselves. But what happened at that conference was far from ordinary. What was meant to be a polished performance soon turned into a moment of jaw-dropping arrogance. Standing at the podium, with a tight smile and an air of supreme confidence, was none other than Sarah Kingston, a figure who had risen quickly through the political ranks under the shadow of Donald Trump. Known for her loyalty, her unflinching devotion to the former president, and a knack for making the most outlandish statements, Kingston had cultivated an image of unwavering allegiance. But it was her latest boast that would send shockwaves through the room and ultimately, the entire political sphere. Her words would spark a firestorm. The kind of scandalous admission that, in any other setting, would be considered a career-ending mistake. Yet here she was, the self-proclaimed Trump stooge, grinning ear to ear, so proud of something that would leave most people, especially those who had worked tirelessly for progress, speechless. It wasn't just a bad look. It was a tone-deaf disaster waiting to unfold. And the press, as hungry as always, was ready to pounce. The press conference was hosted at a luxury hotel in Washington, D.C. The atmosphere felt almost festive, though beneath the surface, the usual tension simmered. Kingston had just been appointed to a high-ranking position in the new administration, a direct result of her unshakable loyalty to Trump during his term. Reporters were prepared for the usual platitudes, the rehearsed answers, and the carefully crafted sound bites that political figures love to recycle. But from the very start, Kingston was different. As the flashbulbs exploded in the air, she stepped up to the microphone with a smirk that could rival a seasoned campaigner. Her eyes sparkled, and she exuded an almost giddy confidence, as if she knew something the rest of the world didn't. Perhaps she did. But what was coming was something even the most veteran political pundits couldn't have predicted. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice oozing with that trademark cockiness. "We're here today to talk about something that's close to my heart, and no, it's not the fake news, though that would be fun. We're talking about results. About winning. And about what we've accomplished." Kingston paused for dramatic effect, scanning the room like she was about to deliver a punchline. "We've done something incredible in this administration. I mean, it's unprecedented. The kind of thing that nobody thought possible. And no one can say otherwise. Because we've been strategic. We've mastered the art of, well, let's call it the art of persuasion." There was a pause. The reporters exchanged glances, unsure if they had heard her correctly. "And to that end, I'm very proud to announce that our administration has successfully. We've strategically lowered the bar for what it takes to win. No one has ever lowered the standards for success quite like we have. It's bold, it's unapologetic, and let's face it, it's effective." The room went dead silent. Kingston's words had just landed like a bombshell, and everyone was still trying to process it. She was bragging about lowering the bar for success, not raising standards, not improving policies or strengthening institutions. No, she was boasting about a deliberate and purposeful lowering of the expectations. She continued, oblivious to the stunned faces staring back at her. "And I know the haters out there are going to say, but Sarah, isn't lowering the bar a bad thing?" And to that, I say no. It's genius. Because what's better than making victory so easy that even those who were never supposed to win? The smug satisfaction in her voice was palpable as she leaned into the mic, clearly savoring every word. "We've made it so that winning is just about showing up, about being at the right place at the right time and making the right friends. You don't need to be a policy expert. You don't need to be qualified. You just need to have the right connections. And, as we all know, the Trump administration is the best at making those connections." A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Some reporters exchanged incredulous glances, while others scribbled down every word, knowing this would be the soundbite of the year. It was a public relations disaster in real time, and Kingston was too blinded by her own pride to see it. Kingston, sensing her growing momentum, fired off another round of flippant remarks. "Look, I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking this doesn't sound like the kind of thing that should be celebrated. But let me tell you something, this is a winning strategy. We've proven that it's not about how hard you work. It's not about how much experience you have. It's about knowing how to play the game." As if the audacity of her comments wasn't enough, Kingston doubled down. "And let's not forget about the media, my favorite group of people. You all think you're the watchdogs of democracy. But you're just pawns in the game. And guess what? I'm the one pulling the strings. Because we know how to get what we want. We've figured out exactly how to make people believe in something that's not even real. The room was now buzzing with uncomfortable energy. Some reporters were frantically scribbling notes, others shaking their heads in disbelief. But Kingston was too caught up in her own narrative to notice. Her brashness, her self-congratulatory tone, it was all too much. She leaned back in her chair and smirked. In the end, folks, it's all about making winning feel effortless. Because when you make it this easy, well, you don't just succeed, you dominate. And with that, the press conference ended. The fallout from Kingston's words was immediate. Social media exploded. Headlines blared, and commentators had a field day. Trump stooge brags about lowering the bar for success became the top trending topic. Politicians from both sides of the aisle were outraged. Even those who had supported her before were now questioning whether this kind of public admission was beyond the pale. Kingston's office was flooded with angry calls from political allies, consultants, and even a few sympathetic voices within the administration. The reaction from the public was equally intense. Her boast about lowering the bar for success was not just a bad look, it was the kind of arrogance that would alienate even the most diehard supporters. But Kingston, ever the loyalist, refused to back down. Instead of issuing an apology, she stood by her statement, claiming that the backlash was simply liberal whining and that true patriots understood the brilliance of the strategy. Yet the damage had been done. It wasn't just the public relations nightmare. It was the revelation of a deeper truth, the cynical, disillusioned approach to politics that had poisoned the administration she served. She had bragged about lowering the standards, about making it easier for the unqualified to thrive, and in doing so, she had exposed a fatal flaw in the system she was helping to build. As Kingston's words reverberated across the nation, the long-term consequences of her boast became clear. The public had seen the cracks in the facade. The idea that winning no longer required effort, expertise, or integrity was too much for even the most hardened political operatives to stomach. What had been framed as a brilliant tactic quickly turned into a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris. In the end, Kingston's moment of pride was remembered not as a victory, but as a stark reminder of just how far the political game had fallen. And as the dust settled, the question remained, when the bar is lowered this far, what does it even mean to truly win anymore?